I wasn't looking for anything. That's what still eats me alive. I wasn't one of those paranoid husbands who snoop through phones or follow their wives around in secret. I believed in the kind of trust that doesn't need to be spoken aloud. So when it happened, it didn't feel like I was discovering something. I felt like I'd been violently shoved into someone else's nightmare, and the punchline was that it was mine all along. We were at this beach rental in Carolina. Family thing, long overdue. Her parents chipped in. Her sister brought her weird gluten-free snacks, and our 2 kids, energetic and clueless, were throwing sand into each other's hair like that was the only thing that mattered in the world. That morning had been weird. She made this excuse about going to the local market for fresh berries, which already didn't add up since the fridge was stuffed with produce nobody touched. She took the car. I stayed back, grilled breakfast, let the kids wrestle over cereal. Typical vacation stuff. An hour passed, then 2. I called her, no answer. I texted 3 times. Blue ticks, no replies. Something was wrong. But it wasn't dread I felt yet. It was more like a noise in the background, something just off-key. I walked down to the beach with the kids. Her sister, Mia, was already down there in one of those ridiculous straw hats, sipping iced coffee like it was a performance. She glanced at me when I asked, "Have you seen her?" and said, she mentioned she might check out that coastal antique place. But there was hesitation, just a flicker in her voice. Caught it. And for the first time, I felt that cold pinch behind my ribs. So I left the kids with Mia and decided to drive up toward the main road, maybe even pass by that antique shop, whatever that meant. 10 minutes in, my phone buzzed. A message. From her. No text, just a picture. I opened it, and I swear, my fingers turned to stone. It was a selfie. Her, smiling, hair a bit wind-tangled, like she was trying to look natural. Behind her, a man's leg, bare, hairy, propped up on a bed with white sheets. She sent it to me by mistake. Or maybe she didn't. I stared at that photo so long I didn't realize the car had rolled to a stop in the middle of a side street. My jaw locked. My whole body went tight in a way that felt mechanical. And suddenly, I wasn't just driving. I was hunting. I turned around. I knew where she was. The rental we'd gotten was actually a duplex. 2 houses mirroring each other, one rented by us, the other supposedly empty. But I remembered her telling me something weird on the first day. I think someone left a cooler in the other house's yard. Might be worth checking if someone forgot to lock it. Now it all slammed together in my head like a stack of glass. I parked and walked around the side of the house. Quiet. No music. No talking. But there was a faint thud. The kind you only notice when you're trying not to hear it. I stepped up onto the porch of the other unit. The lock had a keypad. I punched in the last 4 digits of her birthday. Click. The door opened slow. No creaks. No warning. I stepped inside, past the kitchen, into the hallway, heart thundering. Not with fear. Not even with anger yet. Just this raw, electric disbelief. And then I saw the bedroom door slightly open. I didn't hesitate. I pushed it open. And there they were. Not under sheets. Not mid-anything. Just sitting there. She in a towel. Him shirtless. Drinking wine from our vacation stash. Laughing at something. She looked up and saw me. And what she did next is what I'll never forget. She didn't flinch. She didn't panic. She just rolled her eyes, as if I was a minor inconvenience. "Oh," she said, like she'd spilled some juice on the carpet. "You're early." That's when I felt the first crack. The actual, tangible shatter of reality. Because if she had cried, begged, even screamed, I'd have felt something familiar. Instead, she looked at me like I was late to a joke everyone else had been laughing at for months. And the guy, he had the nerve to just sit there and sip. I didn't say anything at first. There was this long, sick pause where the world seemed to rearrange itself into something grotesque. She kept sipping her wine like we were in some indie film and I was just another character with a monologue coming up. He leaned back against the headboard, one arm lazily thrown over a pillow, like this was just some scene from his Tuesday. Then she spoke again. "You really should have knocked. This is kind of a private moment." My hands curled into fists, not from rage, but from restraint. My voice came out low. "Steady. Too steady. Who is he?" She blinked like she didn't understand the question, then turned to him and asked, "Didn't I tell you he'd do the whole dramatic husband thing?" He laughed. He laughed. I took a step forward. She put up a hand. Not afraid, but annoyed. Don't do the whole alpha male act, please. It's embarrassing. We're adults. That's when something in me gave way. I wasn't going to shout. I wasn't going to cry. But I wasn't going to play dumb either. How long? I asked. She swirled her wine in the glass like she was tasting years in it. Does it matter? I said nothing. She tilted her head. You think I kept count? Honestly, it's hard to remember. A few months? Half a year? Maybe more. Depends what you consider starting. Emotionally or physically. She smirked like she'd just made a clever philosophical point. And that's when I realized this wasn't guilt. This wasn't a moment of bad judgment. This was planned. She stood up then, still in that towel like modesty was some outdated concept. She walked past me toward the kitchen and said, You always thought loyalty meant control. But honestly, you just stopped being interesting. You became routine. The guy, he finally spoke. Hey man, look, it's not personal. Stuff happens. I turned to him. You're in my vacation house, drinking my wine, next to my wife. You don't get to say it's not personal. He shrugged. She said you guys were basically roommates. That line, that damn word, roommates. Suddenly every cold evening, every canceled date night, every shrug when I asked if something was wrong. It all lined up. This hadn't been a sudden betrayal. This was erosion. Quiet, calculated, deliberate erosion. I walked out without another word. Back at the beach, the kids were still laughing, digging holes like they were building fortresses. And Mia was scrolling on her phone, pretending not to notice that my face looked like it had just been carved out of granite. But when I got close, she finally looked up. And that's when I saw it in her eyes. She knew. She had always known. She said nothing, just handed me Lily's sun hat and muttered, You okay? I didn't answer, because I didn't sleep that night. Not a second. I laid on the thin mattress in the kids' room, between their bunk beds, staring at the wood-paneled ceiling like it might peel back and reveal some explanation for all of this. I heard every creak, every whispered conversation from the other side of the duplex. Around 3 a.m., I heard a door open, quiet footsteps, laughter muffled behind a wall. My wife's voice, soft, too soft for words, but unmistakably her. I just laid there, eyes wide, not blinking, not breathing. By morning, something in me had shifted. The Nate who showed up to this vacation was gone. The Nate who smiled through little slights, who rationalized the cold glances and distracted answers, who told himself he was just being paranoid. He was gone, and something quieter, harder had taken his place. I made the kids pancakes, blueberries, syrup, the works. I acted normal, because what the hell else could I do? They didn't deserve to know yet. I couldn't bring that hurricane into their world. Not now. Not while they were still innocent. She showed up just before noon, wearing sunglasses and carrying a shopping bag like she'd been out all night, because the moon had personally invited her to an after-party. She walked in, kissed Lily on the forehead like she was the world's most loving mother, and said, Daddy's pancakes again? You're getting spoiled. I didn't speak to her. I didn't even look at her. But I felt her watching me. After breakfast, I pulled Mia aside, took her around to the side of the house where the kids couldn't hear. You knew, I said. Mia didn't try to lie. She leaned back against the wall and looked at me like she'd been waiting for this. I didn't know everything, she said. But yeah, I knew something. How long? She rubbed her temple. Couple months? Maybe more. It was hard to tell. She kept things vague. You know how she is. Who is he? No idea. Some guy from her yoga thing. She mentioned he was liberating. Her words. Why didn't you tell me? And then Mia did something strange. She laughed. Not mean. Not cold. Just exhausted. Because I tried, she said. But every time I brought up how off she was acting, you defended her. You always do. I figured you either already knew and were in denial or you were going to find out the hard way. Looks like we're at that part. That stung more than I expected. Because she was right. Back inside, I started packing. Slowly. Deliberately. Folding clothes into our bags like I was performing surgery. She noticed. Of course she did. Are we leaving? She asked, arms crossed, leaning against the doorframe. I didn't look at her. I am. With the kids. She scoffed. What, you're just going to ruin their vacation because you're upset? That's when I turned. No, I'm going to save their vacation. From this circus. Her face twitched. I could see the moment her pride cracked. But she tried to keep it together. You're overreacting. You're underestimating. The tension in that room could have shattered windows. She looked at me, jaw clenched, eyes cold. And then she said, "You always make everything about you. That's why this happened." I almost laughed. That was the angle? This was my fault? You cheated. On our family. On our life. In a house we paid for. And you brought your sister into the secret. Don't drag Mia into this. She's already in it. You dragged her. For the first time I saw her falter. Just for a second. The mask slipped. Not enough for guilt. But enough for awareness. She turned and left the room. I zipped the bag shut. We left the next morning. No drama. No screaming. No goodbye. Just me, the kids, and a silence so thick it felt like a second shadow. I woke them up early. Told them we were going to go somewhere new. A surprise. They were excited. Kids always are when the world shifts and they don't understand the tectonics beneath their feet. I loaded the car while they brushed their teeth and picked out stuffed animals to take with them. When I glanced back toward the duplex, her window curtain shifted. She was watching. Of course she was. I didn't wave. I didn't even pause. We drove for hours. Music on. Snacks passed around. I faked smiles in the rearview mirror and laughed when they did. But my chest felt hollow. Every time my son said something silly, or my daughter asked me why clouds looked like whipped cream, I felt like I was floating above the moment, just watching. Not part of it. Not yet. Around noon, I pulled over into a rest stop off the highway and just sat there with my hands on the wheel. The kids were asleep in the back. The world was quiet. And that's when my phone lit up. One text. "You're not taking them without talking to me. That's not how this works." I stared at the message for a long time, fingers hovering over the screen. Then I opened the call log and dialed her. She picked up after one ring. "You're kidnapping them," she said. No hello. Just that. Sharp and venom-laced. "I'm protecting them from seeing what you really are," I said. "From the kind of example that teaches them betrayal is a form of liberation." "Oh, stop it. You're not a victim. You just got boring. Then you should have divorced me before crawling into bed with someone else." She went quiet. For a breath. Maybe two. Then she said, "They're still my kids too. And they deserve better than this." Her tone dropped. "You can't just decide to take them and run." "I'm not running. I'm regrouping. I'll be back in a few days. Then we can talk. Lawyers, mediation, whatever route you want." "And what am I supposed to do until then? Sit here like I'm being punished?" "You already punished yourself. You just didn't feel it yet." She hung up. I sat in that car for another 20 minutes, not moving, just staring out at a vending machine someone had kicked in. The absurdity of it made me almost laugh. But I didn't. I just turned on the engine again and drove. We ended up at a hotel by the water. Small place. Nothing fancy. But the kids loved the little pool with its dolphin fountain. That night, I watched them splash and scream while the sun went down, and I tried to imagine what kind of man I had to become now. Because the version of me that trusted her, who thought love could survive anything if you just held on hard enough, he was dead. Not buried yet, but dying by the minute. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. But for the first time, I allowed myself to admit one cold truth. I didn't know who she was anymore. And worse, I didn't know if I ever had. The hotel room was small, 2 queen beds pushed close together, a dusty ceiling fan spinning above like it had one job and hated it. But it was a space we controlled. No tension bleeding through the walls. No low conversations in the next room. No pretending everything was normal while pieces of my life quietly burned behind a curtain. I let the kids fall asleep watching cartoons. I stayed up in the chair by the window, staring at my phone, watching the signal flicker like it, too. Wasn't sure where to stand. She didn't call again. Not that night. Not the next day either. But Mia did. Her voice was cautious, not soft. Cautious, like someone crossing ice she knows is already cracking. "She's spiraling," Mia said. "Thought you'd want to know." "She should have thought of that before bringing a stranger into our vacation rental," I said. "She says you're turning the kids against her." "No. She's doing that all by herself. Silence. Then Mia exhaled. Listen, I'm not here to take sides, but you need to hear something. That guy, the one from the house, he's not some random. They've been seeing each other longer than she let on. I didn't realize how deep it was until this morning. Why tell me now? Because you finally stopped defending her. And because he's not leaving. What do you mean? She asked him to stay in town. Said she needed emotional stability. Her words. I laughed, sharp and humorless. Emotional stability. After detonating a decade of marriage. She's rewriting the whole story, Nate. Says she was emotionally abandoned. That you didn't care anymore. That you were distant. I was busy holding everything together while she planned her escape. She's telling her parents it was a mutual breakdown. That mutual enough for her to keep him around while we were still sharing a bed? Mia went quiet. Then, I didn't call to stir you up. I just thought you deserved to know what's being said. Before it all starts going public. What do you mean public? Her Facebook. She's already edited her relationship status. There it was. The modern guillotine. One click. A severed identity. No explanation, no context. Just single. She's already painting it like you were emotionally distant for years. Mia continued, voice lower now. She's preloading sympathy. She's playing it smart. And you, if you keep being quiet, she'll own the narrative. I thanked her coldly and hung up. For the next hour, I didn't move. I just stared at the ocean. My thoughts were louder than any wave out there. The irony of it all. How she had always hated social media. Said it was fake. Said she didn't need to perform for strangers. And yet the first thing she does after lighting the match is set the stage for a one-woman pity show. Later that night, while the kids were brushing their teeth, I checked her page. Sure enough, single. A photo posted of her on the beach, taken after I left. The caption said, "New beginnings are always hardest when they mean walking away from comfort and choosing yourself." Comfort? I almost smashed the phone against the dresser. But I didn't. Instead, I opened a new document on my laptop. Began listing everything. Dates. Changes. Cold nights. That weird charge on our bank statement in January. The girls' weekend in March where she came back glowing. I wasn't just making notes, I was building a record. A timeline. A defense. Because she wasn't just ending a marriage. She was rewriting it. She was making herself the hero in a story where I hadn't even been told the plot. I wouldn't let her win that quietly. 2 days later, she showed up. No warning, no message, just the sharp knock of knuckles on the hotel room door while I was zipping up the kids' backpacks. It was early, just after breakfast. The knock was too calm. I opened the door expecting hotel staff. Instead, there she stood. Hair done. Sunglasses perched on her head like a crown. Wearing the same casual expression she used when talking to baristas or store clerks. Polite disinterest. Except now, that cold detachment was aimed at me. "I want to talk," she said. The kids rushed toward the door, Lily already smiling. She crouched down, hugged them both, kissed them, and told them to go brush their teeth again. I didn't say anything. I just watched. When they were in the bathroom, she walked past me into the room uninvited, like nothing had changed. "I want them back at the house," she said, turning to face me. "This is ridiculous." I closed the door behind her, slow. "What's ridiculous is you thinking you can flip reality like a coin. You cheated on your family, then acted like you were liberating yourself from a life sentence. Oh, save the courtroom lines. You took them, without a word. That's not protecting them, that's controlling them. You paraded your affair through our family vacation like it was some open secret. That's rich coming from the man who hasn't looked me in the eye for over a year." There it was again. The shift. The reframing. She paced slowly now, hands at her sides, like she was in some negotiation workshop. "You know what this really is? This is you being humiliated. And instead of dealing with that, you're hiding behind the kids." "No," I said. "I'm trying to keep their memories clean. I want them to remember sandcastles and pancakes. Not the sound of their mother calling their father boring while her boyfriend drinks wine in my chair." She paused. Just for a moment. That was the crack. That was the real her under the presentation. And then, she snapped it shut again. "Let's not pretend you were some flawless husband. You stopped listening to me years ago. I had to go outside to feel human again. You went outside because you wanted to be someone else. You just didn't want to do the hard part. Ending this before starting something else. Because you wouldn't have let me go. You would have made it ugly. You would have fought. You're damn right I would have. I would have fought for this marriage. For our kids. For honesty. Not to trap you, but because I believed in what we built. You chose to burn it down and blame the fire on me. Her eyes flared then. Something in her couldn't hold the script anymore. I gave you signs, she snapped. I begged for more attention. More time. You didn't change. You gave me ultimatums, not conversations. You gave me guilt, not truth. And when I didn't fix things fast enough, you gave yourself to someone else. That hit. She turned away, walked to the window, pulled the curtain back just slightly. You're not keeping them, she said. I'll go legal if I have to. I'm not keeping them, I said. I'm giving them space. Space from a version of you they don't need to meet yet. She faced me again. You think I'm the villain? No. I think you're the story you tell yourself. And right now, you're telling one hell of a fantasy. We stood there, breathing the same air but in two different worlds. Then she said it flat, final. If you make me the enemy, I'll become one. I didn't flinch. You already did. She left without another word. And in the silence that followed, the kids came out of the bathroom, laughing about something. Lily asked if we were going to the aquarium. I said yes, because the day would be theirs. And she wouldn't steal that to the aquarium visit felt like stepping between two dimensions. One, where blue-lit jellyfish floated behind glass and my daughter pressed her palms against every tank with wide-eyed wonder. The other, where every smile I gave them was forced through gritted teeth, and the cold echo of her words. If you make me the enemy, I'll become one, still lingered like fog on the edge of every thought. I carried the weight of that sentence through the shark tunnel, past the penguin enclosure, through the overpriced gift shop where Max begged for a plush stingray. I bought it, not because he needed it, but because I needed to give him something that wasn't broken. That night, after they fell asleep in their swimsuits, I sat outside on the little balcony of our hotel room, laptop on my knees, a legal site open in one tab, a blank email draft in another. I didn't know if I was writing to a lawyer or to the version of myself who still needed to say things out loud. I didn't finish the email, because my phone buzzed with a call, from a number I didn't recognize. I answered. A man's voice, quiet, direct, the boyfriend. I figured you'd be the type to block numbers. Glad I guessed right. I didn't say anything. He continued. Look, man, I don't want trouble. I didn't call to fight. You're talking to the wrong person for that. I said. I didn't know she was still that deep in your life. She made it sound like you were just roommates, like it was done. I didn't sign up to blow up a family. I stood up, walked to the edge of the balcony, staring out at the dark ocean. You signed up to sneak around with someone else's wife. You got what you paid for. He sighed. I'm not calling to beg, just to say I get it. And I'm backing off. That stopped me. What does that mean? She's intense. That's probably not news to you. She's been spiraling since you left, calling me all night, talking about custody, lawyers, image. She doesn't talk about you like a person. It's like you're just a wall she's punching. She's rewriting the story, I said. She's rewriting everything, he replied. I saw it happen, and I don't want any part of that anymore. There was silence. Then I asked him something I didn't even know I was thinking. Did you love her? A pause. I wanted to. She makes you feel like the only person in the room. Until she doesn't. That line hit hard. He hung up soon after. No drama. No apologies. Just the sound of another character walking off stage in this train wreck of a play. And now I had a new reality. She was unraveling. And unraveling people are dangerous when their illusion of control breaks. The next morning I got the email. Subject: custody arrangement. A full 3-page document. Attached to a message from her new lawyer. Civil on the surface, icy beneath. Polite dagger. Requests for shared custody, immediate return of the children to stable residence, and a formal mediation schedule. She had wasted no time. While I was buying aquarium tickets, she was drafting legal battles. And at the bottom, a statement that nearly choked me. Mr. Dawson has demonstrated emotional volatility and impulsive behavior. His current decisions appear to be driven by anger, not the well-being of the children. She was painting me as unstable, dangerous even, after everything she'd done. I stared at the screen for a long time, then forwarded the document to a lawyer Mia had recommended earlier that week. One line in my message: "She wants war. Let's show her what defense looks like." I met with the lawyer the next morning in a quiet office overlooking a courthouse parking lot. His name was Graham, a man built like he used to play college football but traded the cleats for clean suits and wore by paperwork. He listened without interrupting as I laid everything out. No embellishment, no theatrics, just the timeline, the beach house, the photo, the man, the manipulation. When I finished, he leaned back, tapped his pen once on the table and said, "She's playing the long game, and she's playing dirty. That's fine. We can go cleaner and sharper." He explained what we needed: documentation, testimony, patterns, evidence that this wasn't about a marital disagreement but a calculated act of deception and emotional instability. He even asked if I could get Mia to give a written statement. I said I'd ask. Before I left, he said something that stuck. "Don't let her drag you into the chaos she created. The one who stays calm always wins in the end." I returned to the hotel thinking about that, about how calmness had never felt more like a weapon than now. Because beneath all her lawyer's words, that email had reeked of fear. Not of me, but of losing control. She had always needed to be the narrator, the one who shapes the tone of every conversation, who rewrites discomfort into victimhood. She wasn't just defending herself. She was performing. That afternoon, she texted me, "Can we talk? No lawyers. Just us." I didn't answer. Not immediately. I waited until the kids were napping, then replied, "Only if it's in person. Public place. No outbursts." She agreed. We met at a cafe near the water. I chose it because it was open, bright, and crowded enough to keep things civil. She was already there when I arrived, seated in the corner, phone in hand, dressed like she wanted to look relaxed but calculated every inch of it. I sat down. No hello, no smile, just her eyes watching, measuring. "I don't want this to get ugly," she said first, like she was setting terms before a ceasefire. "It's already ugly," I said. "We're just pretending the smell isn't there." She winced. "Do you really think I'm some villain?" "No. I think you're someone who doesn't like consequences." She laughed once, short, bitter. "You always thought you had the moral high ground. You just liked being the victim. You think what you did was empowerment? I think I stopped living in silence. You started lying. That's not the same thing." She leaned in, voice low now. "You know it scares you? That I did what I wanted without asking for your permission. That I chose myself." "No. What scares me is that our children might grow up thinking love is disposable. That family is optional. That betrayal is strength." The words hit her harder than I expected. She looked away for a moment. Not defeated. Not guilty. Just tired. Or pretending to be. Then she said it. "I don't want full custody. I want control. Of the narrative. Of the environment. You're unpredictable right now." I stared at her. "You mean I'm not letting you steer this anymore?" She shrugged. "Let me make this simple," I said. "You want shared custody? Then stop lying. To the kids. To our families. To yourself. And if I don't? Then we go full legal. Every message. Every witness. Every dollar you spent on that man while you told me we couldn't afford counseling. I will not let you poison this divorce the same way you poisoned the marriage." She blinked. Hard. I saw it then. Panic. For just a second. Not because I threatened her, but because I reminded her I wasn't backing down. She picked up her bag. "This wasn't how I thought it would go," she said. "Yeah," I replied. "That's kind of the problem." She left, and I stayed behind, watching the coffee steam vanish into air. The court summons came quicker than expected. A custody mediation hearing, scheduled within 10 days. Graham called it a calculated move to rattle you. But I was already past rattled. I was somewhere colder now, steel instead of glass. I spent the last week compiling everything. Emails, calendar entries, even receipts for weekends she claimed were girls' nights, but were actually spent in hotels that mysteriously didn't match her friends' social posts. Mia agreed to give a statement. She didn't hold back. She used to call him boring, said he was furniture. Meanwhile, he was taking care of the kids, paying for everything, and still bringing her coffee every morning. It wasn't just about infidelity anymore. It was about the mask she wore, and how many people she thought would help her keep it on. The night before mediation, I sat down with Max and Lily. I didn't tell them everything. You don't dump adult poison into a child's well. But I told them something honest. Mom and I are going to live in different homes. That doesn't change how much we love you. It just changes where we live. Lily asked if she could still bring her stuffed bunny between houses. Max asked who would take them to soccer. I will, I said. She will too sometimes. We'll figure it out together. They didn't cry. They didn't scream. They nodded. Children have a terrifying ability to adapt to broken things as if they were always cracked. The mediation day was rain-soaked. Of course it was. Like the sky was doing us a favor and crying for all of us so we didn't have to. She showed up late. Dressed down this time, minimal makeup, no posturing. Her lawyer did most of the talking. Graham did mine. I just sat and watched her. Not with hatred, there was no fire left for that, but with a kind of surgical detachment. She tried to push the narrative. Emotional neglect, communication breakdown, months of detachment. Graham didn't flinch. He handed the mediator a folder. A fair timeline, corresponding receipts, travel history, and a character statement from her own sister. Her lawyer's face tightened. She shifted in her chair, started tapping her pen against her knee. I could see it. She wasn't expecting this. She thought I'd show up with just wounded pride and a sob story. Instead, I brought truth. Cold, organized, undeniable. The mediator turned to her, asked if she wanted to respond. And for the first time, she didn't have one. It was eerie, watching her blink like the words were loading behind her eyes but refused to come. The silence stretched. The mediator wrote something down, then moved on. When it was over, the temporary arrangement was clear. Shared custody, rotating weeks, mandatory co-parenting sessions, and a psychological assessment on both of us. I agreed without hesitation. She hesitated, and that hesitation spoke louder than any insult she'd ever hurled. Back at the hotel, I didn't celebrate. There was no win in this. Only losses tallied and wounds counted. But there was relief, like I'd climbed out of a house that had been burning for years without even realizing it. That night, while the kids slept and I packed for the drive back home, I opened her old drawer in my luggage. By habit, reflex, it was empty now, just a space where something used to live. But in the corner, tucked into the lining, I found a crumpled note. It was a list, in her handwriting. Things I can't say aloud. Only 3 bullet points. I'm scared I broke something I don't know how to fix. I miss when he used to listen without looking at his phone. I wish I didn't need someone else to feel real again. I stared at that paper for a long time. Then I folded it, tucked it into my wallet, and zipped the suitcase shut. Not because I forgave her, but because part of me needed to remember. Even villains bleed somewhere. 2 months later, life had rearranged itself into a strange new rhythm. We were officially separated now. 2 names on 2 leases, 2 calendars, 2 parallel lives that only collided where our kids existed. I moved into a modest townhouse across the city. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. I bought second-hand furniture, painted the kids' rooms in their favorite colors, learned how to braid Lily's hair from YouTube, went to every one of Max's soccer games, even when it rained. She moved back into the old house, alone, or maybe not. I stopped checking. We communicated through a shared parenting app. No more text messages. No more voice notes. Just emotionless exchanges about drop-offs and field trips and who's bringing snacks to Saturday practice. Her tone was always polite, robotic, like a customer service agent trained to sound human but never be one. At first, the silence between us was deafening. Then it became peaceful. There was power in the absence. A kind of healing that only begins when the noise dies down. One day she called. Not a text. Not the app. An actual phone call. I almost didn't answer, but I did. I saw your mom, she said, her voice flat, like this wasn't a surprise. She was at the grocery store. I said nothing. She didn't say much, just looked at me, like I was a stranger. You are, I replied. She paused. Then, it's weird, isn't it? How quickly someone becomes a ghost. You buried yourself. Another silence. I'm seeing someone, she said. It's new. I didn't want you to hear it from the kids. Good for you. I thought maybe you'd say something else. What would you like me to say? That I'm happy for you? That I forgive you? That it's all fine now? No, she said. Just something. And I realized then, she still needed a reaction. Still needed me to reflect her choices back at her with meaning. But I didn't have anything left to give her. I hope he's ready, I said. To be rewritten. Click. She didn't call again. The kids adjusted quicker than I expected. They stopped asking when we'd all be under one roof again. They stopped drawing pictures of all four of us. They stopped waiting for something I was afraid to name. One night, Max asked me, "Do you still love Mom?" I thought about lying, about taking the easy road, but I told him the truth. I loved the version of her I knew, but people change. Will you ever be friends again? I looked out the window, at the moon hanging heavy and yellow above the rooftops. I didn't know how to explain what betrayal does to friendship, how it poisons memory, how it turns inside jokes into stomach knots. We're better parents now, I said. That matters more. He nodded like that answer made sense. Maybe it did. And here's what I've learned. Betrayal doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it dresses itself in logic and poetry and words like growth. It convinces you that you were the one holding the leash while it was already running free. But truth doesn't need to perform. It sits in silence, waiting for everything else to collapse. If you're reading this, wondering if you're crazy for doubting the sudden freedom your partner claims they found, you're not. You're the sane one standing in the smoke, trying to trace the fire back to its source. And if you've been rewritten, flattened into a side character in someone else's redemption arc, just remember, villains are loud, but the ones who survive, they rebuild, quietly, intentionally, brick by painful brick. I'm not healed, but I'm free, and that's a damn good place to start.